I watched half an hour disappear in a meeting once. One question about information protection requirements that hadn't even been finalized yet pulled the whole room into a design discussion that was completely pointless. 30 minutes of work that couldn't mean anything until the requirements existed. The original purpose of the meeting? Barely touched. Nobody in that room could stop it once it started. Today, I want to give you the move that would have stopped it, and the piece that most facilitators skip that makes it actually work. Stick around. Across my career, one pattern keeps showing up. People skills shape long-term success. I've seen it in high-stakes technical work, leadership, business, and family life. This channel is about solving the people puzzle. I want to walk you through 3 situations. A meeting I watched get derailed in real time, how I helped develop a move that could have stopped it, and the follow-through that makes people actually trust you. Questions aren't the problem. What you do with them is the problem. The meeting I described, I wasn't running it. I was a participant, and I watched the whole thing happen in real time with no way to stop it. The setting was a planning session for a field test, multiple organizations contributing capabilities. The point of the meeting was to understand the environment and figure out what each capability would actually need to do. Important groundwork. Someone asked about information protection. Reasonable question. But the requirements for information protection in that environment hadn't been determined yet. They were still being formalized. That didn't stop the discussion. Within minutes, the room was developing alternative data protection mitigations, weighing design options, making decisions about capability modifications. Real effort, real thought, completely premature, because none of it meant anything until the requirements existed. 30 minutes went by, the actual agenda items still untouched. Nobody in that room was doing anything wrong. They were just following a question that led somewhere it shouldn't have gone, because there was no system to catch it. The cost of a derailment isn't just the tangent time. It's everything that didn't happen while you were in the tangent. The move that handles this came from a complicated stakeholder kickoff, and I didn't develop it alone. A mentor of mine, someone who managed complex programs before me and who I still go to for the hard facilitation situations, came to me before a particularly tricky meeting. We had a project funded by one stakeholder with significant implications for another. History told us the second stakeholder would have a lot of questions. We wanted to be open to those questions, just not in this meeting. This meeting had one job: clearly convey the project goals, structure, and timeline. It was not a meeting for detailed discussion. His idea? A holding pen for questions and ground rules declared up front. We would capture all questions for future discussion unless they were directly related to the material and could be answered immediately. We'd review the list at the end. My contribution was the execution, the patter, the language for announcing it, and the techniques for moving a question from discussion to capture without the person feeling dismissed. Before the agenda, it sounds like this. It's possible as we go through this material that it'll spark some related questions or discussion. Because I want to make sure we serve the purpose of this particular meeting, if anything comes up that doesn't directly serve today's agenda, I'll capture it for additional action. I'll go over the list at the end to make sure we've captured all the ideas from the group. That's it. You've set the ground rules. You've promised a review. You've framed it as care for the agenda, not as a gatekeeper shutting questions down. Then, in the moment when a question needs to be parked, this is an important discussion and it needs to be handled outside this meeting. I'm going to capture it in the notes so we can return to our agenda. If there's someone in the room who can own the follow-up, I ask them right then. And I have specific lines for the situations that feel trickiest. For a question from a senior leader or the boss, that's a very important point, and I want to make sure I have the best answer for you. I'd like to capture that and get back to you with a detailed response by some specific date. Is that okay? You're not shutting them down. You're promising quality over speed. That distinction matters to them. For an emotionally charged question, something the room clearly cares about, I can tell this discussion is very important to a lot of us. I want to make sure we all have the right time to do it justice. So I'm going to capture this as a topic for a follow-on meeting. Then I assign someone to lead the follow-up right there in the room so everyone can see it's real. The move is always the same. Acknowledge the question, capture it visibly, explicitly defer, assign an owner when you can. The acknowledgement prevents the person from feeling dismissed. The explicit deferral prevents someone else from picking up the question and continuing the tangent while you're still writing. And assigning an owner right there is what makes the capture feel real rather than symbolic. But there's one last part that determines whether this technique lasts. Let's say you've captured the questions, meeting ends, and then nothing happens with the list. Maybe you meant to follow up, maybe it slipped. Maybe you figured people would ask again if they still cared. The next time you try to park a question, you feel resistance. Someone pushes back, or worse, people stop asking questions at all because they've quietly learned that the parking lot is a polite way of making their questions disappear. That's what the parking lot becomes without follow-through, a graveyard. The technique only works if people trust it, and they only trust it if you close the loop consistently. At the end of every meeting where I'm using this, I go through the captured list out loud. Every item gets a disposition. I can answer this in 2 minutes right now. Answer it, move on. This needs a separate meeting. Name who will set it up and give a timeline. This should go to 2 specific people offline. Assign them, set a deadline. We've decided this isn't relevant anymore. Close it explicitly. Don't just leave it hanging. And then, after the meeting, you do those things. Do that consistently and something shifts. People stop fighting the parking lot. The more reliably you close the loop, the more comfortable they are with having their questions captured in the moment. The technique becomes self-sustaining. Skip the follow-through and you deserve the resistance you get. You taught them that the list doesn't mean anything. They might even fight you for control to make sure they have their say. The capture buys you the meeting. The follow-through is what earns you the right to do it again. If this was useful, I've got more on facilitation and other social skills for technical professionals. Hit subscribe and check out some of the other videos in this series. If you'd like to get this kind of thinking delivered to you, I have a newsletter called Thoughts from the Corner. Same focus, communication, productivity, and people skills for technical professionals. The sign-up link is in the description.